Well, hi everybody, it's Hubby here with Just About Anything Garage, and this is another post-production, put it out recorded after we did all the action and put out the big one. This is the intro to video part 4 for the Ghost projects, the drivetrain and getting her moving on her own power. This is just released first part 4.1. This is going to be 4.2. This is all the stuff that happened in the middle, all the little filler stuff that we did while we were waiting for parts, right? And I'm putting it in chronological order, but it may not make a lot of sense to you when you're looking it over chronologically, that is. You'll understand what's going on parts-wise for that. But if you get a little bit confused, just go to the 4.1 that I just released. Today is November 12th. I released it today. And we're going to release the second part tomorrow. So it'll be out there, and we just broke it up because it was a 2-hour video. So we're just trying to shorten it up and put it in a couple of chunks that you guys can chew, because it's hard to sit and watch a 2-hour video. I understand that. So that's where we're at. This is the introduction to that. Enjoy the video, watch it, and we'll see you again with some more inciting action. Good morning, everybody. Hubby here with Just About Anything Garage. It is, October 10th or so? And we're on to part 4 of the Corvette drivetrain, get her running. And you've seen her in part 3 get all together and run and move. And so what we're doing now is we're waiting for the final parts to come in so that we can get the front end package all done up. And we've done a couple things while we're waiting, and it's my fault we're delayed with it because I ordered late. Anyways, we went ahead and these are going to be replaced. These are the old ones, but we've got the shroud back on. We got to put the water pump on. We've got a fan on order that's coming. We got to do the power steering pump and bracketry for that. And once that's on, this package is together, and we can go ahead and we can see if she really cruises. But in the meantime, we've been doing a couple different things, and hopefully in editing, I'll get them all lined up in the right places because I've been back and forth doing different things. But one of the things that we've been trying to do is we've been trying to troubleshoot the headlight system on the Vette, which, as you know, is a vacuum controlled system. Because the engine produces plenty of vacuum, 20 inches of mercury while it's running on it, but they weren't working. So what we've done and we've tested the components individually. I put vacuum on the front side and the back side of the actuators. We know that they work. And now what I've done is I've rigged it up with a control. I borrowed the dump switch, which is right here for the system. Right there to control it, and I've hooked directly to the engine vacuum. And what I'm trying to do is just test the package to make sure that everything is fine there, all the lines don't leak, and everything works and that type of thing, because there's a leak or there's something in the system that's stopping it from work when you go from the headlight controls. And it could be the control switch or anything. Any little leak isn't going to do that. My tank could be leaking. That is that front tube that's down here. I don't know if you see it. Let me go ahead and put a light on for you. Did we get the light? We got the light. That tube right down there is the tank for it. So if there's a leak with that, more than likely what it is some of the hoses are hardened where they connect into it and they're leaking around it. And it just won't do it. It just won't actuate it when we go ahead and we try it. But we're going to go ahead and we're going to try this. And see what the system does. So let's go ahead and fire the Vette up, get some vacuum, and let's test and see if everything is going to work for us. Go in here and pop this on. Let's turn the gas on for her over here. Go ahead and fire her up. Now we can run it for a short time and use the vacuum from the motor. Okay, so as they see, they're closed. If I pull on the switch here, there we go, they open. If I push it back up, they should close. If I pull on the switch, it should open. Look at that. If I push on it, it should close. All right, so we know that we have vacuum to the headlight system. Let's go ahead and get this thing off. Because we have no cooling system for it, so we only run it for a very short amount of time when we want to do stuff like that. So we know that the front package is working. We know that the relays are working. We know that the actuators are working. We know the lines that go to them are working. So it's something that's coming from the cockpit to the front and into the tank. So that's the next section that we're going to test. And we got to figure out how we're going to test that. I'm not sure. It may just be to pull a vacuum on it and see if we have any leaks or anything like that. But we know the front end works well once it's got enough vacuum to it. So if we can get it so that we're porting vacuum under the control of the switches in there. We could have a bad switch. It could be the light switch that's bad. We know the dump switch isn't because we just used it. So that's in good shape there. We know the front package is all working. Everything is working there. So probably what we'll do next is plug the tank lines, go ahead and put a vacuum pump on it and see if we can't draw the tank down. If we know that the tank's good, then it's got to be a line that's coming, one of two things. The feed line that drives that, which all comes off of this check valve right here. This is the main line that goes back, feeds the tank. This little one goes into the dash, and this is the control line coming back that would plug into where that switch normally did. So we're going to go ahead and get that set up. We'll come back and we'll show you the setup and how we're doing things and where we're at, and see if we can't get this diagnosed so that we at least have some headlights going up. Now the headlights themselves don't work either. You pull it on, I've got no headlights, so I don't know if there's a fuse issue there, a connection issue or what. We'll have to troubleshoot the electrical part of it as well. But for right now, let's go ahead and get the vacuum worked out and we'll see where we are. So hang tight, we'll be right back with some more exciting Corvette Part 4 stuff. Good morning. Well, we're back at it. Let me get my glasses on so I can actually see you guys. There we go. See you guys, I mean I can see the screen that shows me. Anyways, we went over the vacuum, what we're going to do, what we found out, and how we're going to fix that. But I wanted to just review it one more time and go into detail on how we're going to go ahead and correct it. And then we're going to talk about the AC and heat control, because I made an error earlier. I want to correct the error on that. And then we'll talk about what we might be able to do to get that working. Not that AC is important for it, because we're not going to go ahead and use that initially, but it does control the heating, and we might want to have that on that. So anyways, here's where we're at. Let's pop the light on, okay? So we set this up, like we said, such that we could go and make everything work, and we showed you that everything worked, right? We the switches on the inside had everything set up and feeding them that. So here's what we're going to do. Jag Summit, a whole bunch of them have 5x7 vacuum control cylinders, okay, and they have a check valve on them for the input to the feeds, and they have fixed outputs on them. So here's what we're going to do. Down here in this, let me pull this stuff out of the way so you can see a little bit better here, okay? Down there, the big round tube, you can see that the nipples coming off that feed the vacuum that would go into the cylinders. It's clogged, and I can't get it unclogged, and I don't know why it's clogged. Maybe it's rust, maybe an animal got in there laid a nest, but it's a sealed, closed system, so it's hard to get in there. And you don't really want to put fluid in it because you're not going to be able to really get the fluid out to clean it. So what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead to Summit or Jags or whoever, and we're going to get the 5x7 canister, and what we're going to do is, let's go down and look from the underneath of the Corvette for a minute. Down here. Let's see what we got going. Well, oh, I think we just lost our light. There it goes. Came back on. Anyways, underneath here, you can see it's got these curved bars right here. We're going to mount the can right up in here. So it shouldn't impede. Yeah, the light's going out on us. It shouldn't impede the airflow through the radiator too much, because it comes in primarily from here on the upper level. It pushes through here, and we got the shroud on that. So what we're going to do is mount that. Then what we'll do is we'll take, this is the feed line that I have set up for that right there. We'll take that, or a longer version of it. We'll go into the check valve on that. We'll come out of that. We'll feed this again to feed these, and then from this end, what we'll do is we'll pull the cap off. We'll run another line up underneath the one that used to come down here. We'll pull it out. We'll come over here, and we'll feed directly. We'll pull this check valve out. We'll pull this one off. We'll feed this line right here, which feeds the control systems for that. This is the line that goes originally back. You can see it's got a T here. And what that T for, I believe, is for the charcoal canister for the clean fuel system, which is right here with a very stiff line. So if we can get to that connection, we'll replace it. Otherwise, we'll connect into it. So we'll pick up the control canister, and we'll pick up the controls for the
for the lights. Yeah, that's what we're doing. And everything should be kosher. From that point on, we'll have a completed system in there that should work just fine. As you saw, they come right up and they come right down when they're directed to a strong signal source. So once we get a canister that can hold some vacuum for us and a lot of vacuum to get to the appropriate actuators, we'll be good. All right, now the other thing that I wanted to talk to you guys about as we're waiting for parts here, which is primarily why I'm doing this, we're just waiting for the parts to arrive, is, if I can get the door open, there we go. Down here, in this, I have light in here so I can show you guys. Pick this little baby up at Harbor Freight, right? Cheap, gives us light. Down here, if you remember, I had talked about this connector right here, right? This is a little connector. And what that connector is to, it is a vacuum port connector that goes off up here to the actuators for the AC, which are there and in the control box. Okay? And what happens is there's a plate that typically, let's get that back up there so we have some light. There's a plate that sits on the back of that and gives some space. So you can see where there's a hole right here. So it feeds vacuum, and it acts as like a little vacuum manifold is what it does for that, where you feed vacuum in, and then when the actuator needs it, it can draw on it. So what we'll do is we'll find out where the hose, because you know we got broken hoses here, and we got stuff to pull out. So we're gonna, if we can pull these out, what we're gonna do is we're gonna cut the hoses, we're gonna move it up and put it back in, and then we'll find the way it's supposed to be covered, and plate cover that so it can draw the vacuum that it needs to draw for that. And hopefully, once we do that, we might actually be able to get this thing to work for us once we identify a feed, because I have not been able to identify a feed that comes off and over into the control yet. It shows it coming off of the vacuum canister from up front and feeding the AC system, but it was not connected when I got it. So we may have to track down where that sucker is, and probably it's up underneath the dash, so that'll be really fun. Anyways, but that's where we're at. We've got the headlight system's working. We still got to figure out why we don't have lights on it, though. They're not coming on when they're hooked to the thing. Maybe a fuse somewhere. The light switch seems to work. If I put bulbs in, I can turn some stuff on and off. The dome light started to work, but it won't go off. So, you know, we got lots of switches that we need to go in and clean up and make sure that we have appropriate grounds and make sure that we have fuses for that to all work. But that's where we're at while we're waiting for parts. We are figuring out the vacuum system. We'll get as much to work as we possibly can. Again, we're not going to use the AC because it'll just drain power whenever it comes on. I mean, you don't really need it here in the Northeast. Even though it's getting warmer just like it is everywhere else. You can pop the T-tops and have a pleasant day driving. And remember, we're using this as a test platform to see if we can't build a fire breather out of a fairly normal Corvette here. So that's where we're going to go. But having defrosters, having a little bit of heat when it gets chilly might not necessarily be a bad thing. So we'll continue along that pathway. As we get stuff in, we'll let you know. We'll start putting things together on that front end so we can run this sucker, actually, instead of just start it and let it crank for a couple times. I'm trying to get up out of the car here, and I got my foot stuck. So anyways, we'll come back to that. All right, we'll be back in a little bit. Stay tuned. So, hey there, we're back at it. We got the Corvette up in the air, as you can see again. This thing goes up and down about 100 times while we're getting this together. But what you're seeing here is this is braided AN line. It's 5/16. What we did was, while we're waiting on the parts, which we start to get, they're starting to come in, so we'll be doing that there shortly, is we want to get the fuel system set up so that we can pump from it and not use the, pump from itself and not use the backup system. So what we did here, as you can see, is we're running a line now. I got fittings come to fit that because they're larger fittings than what I have to go in, and then we'll run it on up with AN line. It should be a hard line coming off of it, but we're not going to worry about that. We'll use the AN line. The AN line will be just fine.
5/16. And I'm not going to use the AN fittings because I don't have any of the AN fittings. We'll just use hose clamping. But what we did though is we wanted to empty the tank because we didn't want to have crap in it, right? So what I did was I took this, which is off of the internet. You can get DeWalt battery connections with a switch on it with a thing. We hooked it to a fuel pump. It's got the inlet filter to it, so we filtered it coming in and we just pumped it out. And we pumped out about 2 gallons of very yellow varnishy gas out of the tank. But we also, before we totally emptied it, we wrapped it back onto the return line and listened, and we have full flow for that. So what we'll do is when we hook this up is I'm initially going to put in one of the plastic filters so I can see gas come up. We can make sure everything's kosher, and then when we go to get it finalized, we'll go ahead and we'll put one of the metal ones in that is off of a Jeep that's got the return line. So if it builds excess pressure, we'll have it just go through the return line and dump it back into the tank. So that's what we're doing now. We should have the fittings for the fuel pump, so we'll get that set up. And once we got all this set up, we'll show you and hopefully show you it running on its own fuel. We'll dump, you know, 5 gallons in the back and see how everything goes with it. We also got this was a hard one to get, actually, the clutch mounted fan for the Corvette. You'd think that you'd be able to get those pretty readily, but but I did find this one on the marketplace close to my area. Got it shipped to me, so it'll go ahead and it'll button right up onto that. We got the fuel pump, not the fuel pump, I'm sorry, the water pump in. So we've got that already in, and we'll get the water pump stud kit. I think this doesn't have it. I'm waiting on the stud kit, ARP stud kit, to arrive, and then we'll get the water pump on. I got the power steering pump and brackets. All the pulleys have been all shipped, so they'll be coming in. So we should be able to wrap this front end up here very shortly, and we'll get the sucker rolling around on its own, doing everything that it's supposed to be doing. We've talked about the vacuum, how we've chased that down. We still got to chase down some of the lights, stuff is happening there, and chase down the heating and cooling system to the extent that we can make sure that we have heat. We don't care about the AC right at this point. We'll deal with that at a later time once we're done playing with it as a test platform. But we're gonna have some fun with it, so stay tuned, and we'll bring you in when we got some more stuff going on. Okay, so we got the fuel pump hooked up here, but here's the yikes moment. I just noticed this as I was going to let it down. Yikes! So we're going to get it down and we're going to reposition it and make sure it's safe for the next time. But project service announcement, check everything so you don't kill yourself doing this stuff. All right, we'll be right back in a second as soon as I get this down and adjusted, and we'll look at the fuel setup. All right, be right back. Okay, it looks like it's running on its own power here. Filter's filling up. Can't run it too much longer, but you see it right there. The electric pump, but it's filling it up, so she's running under her own fuel. Let's get her off because I don't like to run her that long without the next thing. So it looks like we do have it hooked up right because it's filling the filter up. I'm not sure how rapidly it's supposed to fill the filter up, but it's supporting the motor. Supporting the motor. I'm gonna let that hang out there in space, but it was running and it would have emptied the bowls by now, so cool. All right, so we're gonna clean this up. We're gonna get things tighter in. I'm gonna run it with this filter right here. Why are you not looking at my hand? Oh, because I'm pointing it at me, that's why. Duh. We're going to run it with that filter for a while so we can monitor it and see what it's going. But then it's going to go to a metal one, and it's going to be the Jeep style where it has the return line, and we'll run it down there, ouch, warm, to the return on that, and we'll go from there. Let's see what we're at here. So the intake manifold's cool. The exhaust is, of course, hot. What's the head look like? Head's 160 degrees, 158 degrees. Block's 104. 106 on the cover. So we're okay. We'll just let her cool down. And like I said, we've got the water pump is in. Gaskets, I'm waiting on the stud kit to mount it. So we'll get this mounted up. We'll get the water pump mounted up. We'll get the fan. We'll get everything pulled together tight here to make sure that it's... And we may even get some bracketing and bracket stuff down. So it's not in the way because everything's hanging out loose. But we'll go ahead and we'll get everything tightened down and get this thing running on its own. Get some air in that tire, because even though it needs to be replaced, it will hold air for a little while. And we'll see if she'll move and respond. Once we got it, we got a new upper radiator hoses come in. The lower ones coming. Heater hoses are supposed to be coming. So we should be in good shape here in the next day or so. And see it running around on the driveway anyways. So we'll come back when we got our next steps here and we'll show you. Hang tight. All right, so we're back at it here, okay? And let's just do a real quick review. Seeing how I don't remember what I told you the last time, so the last segment until I edited it. So we're just gonna kind of pop this in here anyways. So we got the fuel pump hooked up, right? We got a filter in here so we can see it's pumping, it's running on its own, so no big problem. Here we've got the vacuum hoses all set up into here. We got a tank on order, so we can put a new tank in here, and then we're gonna get that all cleaned up. We're also gonna do the charcoal canister for the fuel over there, so we'll be good. And going with that, the other thing we did is we haven't got all the parts in, but we got a lot of them. So we got the water pump in, you can see it here, along with the water pump pulley and the bolt kit for it, and the fan kit. I also got the fan and the clutch. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna get this water pump all set up here. And what I like to do when I set external parts onto an engine, I need to tighten this down because that's just in there, it's not tight. That's the bypass for the, which I could put one in because I have a spot over on that. But anyways, what we've got here is, I like to put high-tack Permatex. I've shown you this before. I did it on the intake manifold, right? I like to put a high-tack gasket sealant on it, but I only do it on one side, right? So I'll place the gaskets out of here. I'm gonna place it on, and then we'll clamp it down. I got nice Velcro gaskets for it. It came with their paper gaskets, which are fine. You know, they're okay. They're reasonable quality, but they're not Velcro. Velcro just makes a really good set of gaskets. That's regular, that's Velcro. So, and the reason I don't tack on the engine side is I don't want it to stick. So if I have a problem, I got to pull it off. I don't want to have to do a lot of scraping. It's just a royal pain in the butt on that. I could take this part off, bring it over to the bench and scrape it clean and it would be fine. I hit it with a little brake cleaner just to make sure that the surfaces are clear. We'll let it tack up. We're going to put these on. We'll go ahead and we'll put it onto here. We'll put the bolts into it. We'll get it bolted up. We'll put the pulley on it, make sure everything lines up. And then we'll get the fan on it. We got the shroud in there nice and tight. It's all locked in. Everything's good to go. So we're going to go ahead and do that. Seems how, you know, I don't have a filmer out here, so it's hard to see. We'll just get it set up. I'm sure you've seen 100 times people putting parts on their cars. We'll show you the finished product, because what we're trying to get to is to the broom stage where we can dry it around, and we're real close. So hang on tight. We'll go ahead. We'll get that all together, and we'll be right back. All right, so we're back here for a second. You can see we got most everything kicked up, and if you'll notice, this is turning pretty good, but it's rubbing on occasion. You also notice that, let me turn the light on, so we got some light in there, that we're not all the way up on the bolt yet. And the reason for that is this is kind of a press fit onto the snout for the water pump. So what we're doing here is we're tightening this up until it stops on this bolt, rotating it to the next one, tighten it down, so that, because it's got to be pressed evenly on, we walk it on one side, walk it on the other, walk it on the next bolt, walk it on the next bolt, so you get north, south, east, and west on that. So that's what we're doing with that, and it's almost, you know, lined up here. We're still rubbing in spots, but as we pull it in and we get it to sit and line up, we should clear that. So we're going to go ahead and finish that up. I wanted to show that. You may have to walk it on because the clearance on the snout is kind of a pressed on. So we'll be right back as soon as we finish that. All right, we're back. We got it in. Rotates without hitting. Had to adjust the fan shroud a little bit. Sorry, I was holding you sideways, but we're good. Belt goes on. We got a problem though. You notice we got an alternator decanter. The reason for that is those valve covers are too tall. Remember we had an issue, we were talking in the last one, where we went through several iterations to try and get valve covers here that we liked, that looked good. We wanted Chevy orange on top of this. So these are too tall. It's going to hit the alternator. Alternator won't fit back in the bracket piece. So we're going to go and order us, after all, a shorty pair with baffles. Just get them, put them on, and we'll be all set and ready to go. So water pump is on. Fan is on. Everything lines up. The pulleys all are on tight and all line up, so everything's looking good. I'm still waiting on the power steering pump. That should be here any day with the brackets. We put that on. And I had the belt for that. I had the upper and lower water radiator radiator hoses to go ahead and put on this. And I'm going to get a new set of heater hoses because those are just old and you know they're crusty. So we'll go and replace them. And then we're in pretty good shape. Other than we'd already talked about getting the vacuum canister. We'll order that when we order the valve covers, the new valve covers, and we'll be rocking and rolling. So sit tight. We're almost there. Real close. All right, guys. Catch you in a little bit. All right, we're back. Let's turn light on. Right from the start. And what we're looking at here is, as soon as I get this camera so it won't go off on you, we've got the water pump on. We've got the water pump pulleys on. We've got the clutch fan shroud and the shroud on, and everything's aligned perfectly. We also have the alternator hooked up. Now, if you remember the last time we talked, we had these orange guys on right here, and they're too tall. They're about, well, they're a ½ inch taller than these. These are the chrome ones that originally came. Remember, we tried to paint it, if you remember, and it got all crinkled on us because it wasn't compatible with the primer I used. Well, I got some stripper. I stripped it off just so we can get it on. We got a PCV valve in here. This hose is a little big, so I got a teeny weeny leak at this end up here where it plugs in, because you can see the idle bouncing a little bit when it's on. But this is pressing up against the cover right here, and of course there's no adjustment plane. Now the belt I ordered for this was this year car. Remember, this is not the original motor in it. This is a replacement motor. But the original car, 77, but without AC. This came with AC, so it's tight. There's no adjustability here. I had to loosen this bolt on the back, loosen this one, let it roll forward a little bit and come high, and then actually it went low, and then I had to put a bar on it to get it up. It was very close, but still too tight. So, I mean, this will work. It's very stable. It generates power. I have my gen light goes off. Battery voltage goes up to about 14 volts, so we know that we're running. And it turns. There's no flexing or anything. It looks pretty good, but we do want to get it to regular. So what we're going to do is I'm going to order another belt that's with the AC. It'll be way too long, but it'll give us adjustability. We have plenty of adjustability backwards. We just don't have it forwards. So I have new valve covers coming. I did order those. They're going to be black crinkle finish with the bow tie emblem on them. And they'll have a press in here for oil fill and stuff, and then on the back over there a PCV valve. So we're only going to have two. This one's extra. This is baffled, so I'm not too worried about it right now with that. But everything runs, everything functions. We need to hook up the hoses. We're going to do that next. Make sure everything's tight. I will probably run it for a while first, see how the temperature is and everything, and if we have to, we might plumb in the bypass. I can put a bypass right in here just to make everything level and kosher and working good. We'll put the heater hose connections in. We'll put the heater hose on with some new heater hose and get everything cleaned up. This I might have to rotate out of the way a little bit here in order to do it. And we're going to swap, of course, this filter out to a metal one. I'm not going to leave that in there, but the pump's working fine. You can see it's all full of gas. It's good. We got the choke hooked up. I'm just going to break the line that I hooked up here. It's onto a choke relay, as you can see right here. You turn it on, it turns that on. I'm going to put this fuse holder in on the choke line, so in case something happens with the choke, if it shorts, we don't start a fire. All right, so we're just about drivable here, so it won't be too much longer. We'll get all this vacuum stuff worked out. This is just all temporary. We'll get some more hose. We'll route everything correctly on it. These do work when the engines are running. Everything's kosher and fine with that.
And once we got everything all set up here and ready to rock and roll, we'll show you. We'll bring you back in. I'm going to order also the real remotes and swap this out and put it on a remote, which will mount here probably on. I know this is the heater box, but what we'll do is put it on so it doesn't puncture anything, so that we have remote power sitting up here so we can do the stuff that we need. And I'll run a separate one with this line so that we can do the activation, so we can do a remote start on that. All right, so that's where we are. That's the update. We'll get that fixed so it's right. In the meantime, it'll work just fine to allow us to run it and make sure the belts are tight. Still waiting on the power steering pump. That should be in, I think, tomorrow, actually. Today is the 18th of October, so it should be in on the 19th, I think they said. We'll get that all mounted up down there and get the power steering put up and get power steering going. So that's where we're at. We'll get back to you as soon as we're ready to fly. All right, time for an update. Let's see what we got. We have an upper radiator hose on. We have a lower radiator hose on. Let me go over there and show you. We have a radiator filled with coolant. We have no coolant leaks, although we do have some oil leaks, which are coming from these stupid pans, which I told you I hate because they leak. Anyways, I've already cycled this once for heat, but let's go ahead and fire her up again. Show you guys some statistics, some vitals here on it. Let's turn on the neutral safety, give it a pump. Should be warm, so it should fire right up. There we go. Got the idle set at about 950. See, our temperature gauge is working about 180, 185. I don't know if the fuel works yet, but I bet you it does. Voltage gauge works, showing us charging. We don't know about oil pressure yet because I'm still waiting on that stupid sensor. The brake light could be from the switch. You got to get the everything bled, but seems to be running just fine, other than those oil leaks. Going around with my thermal gun, checking temps. Nothing's really bad. Everything looks good. Running just fine. Now we need the power steering pump. We'll be able to start moving it. I got to set timing on it too. We're going to let it cool down a full cool cycle and then cycle it again, get it hot. We'll make sure that the timing's set correctly. Then we'll go and we'll set the idle mixture screws using the vacuum gauge on it. I'll show you that. And we still got to figure out this alternator because it's pinned up against here. And I'm going to get the bracket for it. See if we can get a longer belt and move it off of it. But that's where we're at. We're that close. Power steering pump. We'll be able to drive her and get her moving. All right. So there's your update. We'll be back in just a little bit with power steering pump and where we are with that. Oh, I might slip an extra one in here, see if we can't track the leaks down, but I'm pretty sure they're coming from the covers. All right, so we'll be right back. All right, so we're underneath. We got it up, obviously, and there's oil all over the place. You can see it running right. I don't know if you can see it, but it's running right there. But if you look, you can see it's leaking right out from underneath that stupid valve cover gasket, running down the engine block and dripping from both sides. It's all here. It's all up there. Yeah, see it all here, running down from there. You can see it's all originating from higher, and it's running onto the headers a little bit yet. So stupid valve covers. I knew I hated them for a reason. Same over on this side. You see it on the back. I thought maybe it remained sealed, but nope. There's nothing coming from there. It's all coming down off of the starter, off of the block. You trace it all the way back up, right? You can see it coming right there off of that stupid cover gasket. Upsetting. I knew I hated those for a reason. All right, so we got the new ones coming in, so we'll take care of that. And I may use either the right stuff or some Permatex tack to keep it and seal it on the back. Man, it's a pain in the butt. Anyways,
No big issues, just those stupid little leaks. Little water leaks you see here aren't from the radiator or from anything. You can see up here there's no leak in there, and there's nothing from anywhere from it in here or anything. It's from when I filled, but all right. Hey, a little shakedown stuff, right? We're close though. All right, we'll be back. All right, so we're back. How about a little bit of action footage? You know, so we got these valve cover gaskets. They're leaking like crazy, right? So let's go ahead and I'll show you this side, and then I'll do the other side because I got to pull the alternator off over there for that one. But let's go ahead and let's see if we can get this to seal a little bit better and stop dumping all that oil. For one thing's for sure, it's not going to rust. The block isn't going to rust with all the oil that's been pouring out of this thing. But let's go ahead and get this off and see if we can't put some, and what we're going to do is use some of the right stuff on the bottom of the gasket and put it back on and see if we can't get that to seal for us. So nice oil flow though. Yeah, see, look, we got oil all on the seal, and we shouldn't do that. So let's go ahead and wipe that off. Let's turn it over here like this, and we'll show you. So we get some of the gray stuff. We may have to let that cork dry out a little bit before we do this. That to seal. See, oil on that. Now let's go ahead and get that head covered. Take you with me on that one so you can see better. See, a little Permatex from the intake get on that and make it sticky, but they got round edges and they're not flat, so get into it. It's leaking on the bottom. The top's pretty dry, so it's coming up and it's leaking. It's seeping right out of there. We got nice flow though on these. May have to do lash setting, but they feel pretty tight, and they're not making any real noise, so should be pretty good. So we got to give this a couple minutes. So got to let that cork dry out a little bit, and then we'll put some gray right stuff on it, put it back on there, tighten it down, then we'll go and we'll do the other one. All right, so hang on and we'll be right back. I'll show you doing that. All right, so here's what we did. We wiped it down and hit it with a little brake cleaner too to make sure it was oil off. And then what we done is we done primarily down to the corners up. This is on the bottom side right here and around in there. We're going to stop there because I don't have a lot of the right stuff left. I want to make sure I can get the other one done. The top isn't leaking. It's not leaking out the top. It's spraying the oil. It's coming down. It's pooling at the bottom before it drains back. And that's what it's doing. So we're going to pop these on, right? And see if we can't get this to seal for us and stop that egregious leak on both sides. All right, so let's get you back set up on the tripod. Get you pointing in there. Not that it's, you've probably seen this 100 times, right? Putting on valve covers, no big deal. Oh, and you know what I need to do? What we need to do that is I need to go get another washer for that valve cover. We've done dropped it. Let's grab another one. Make sure we're all set here. All right, now let's grab that valve cover. Put it back on. All right, let's lift you. Sits down there. All right. So everything is done. So I'll just go and do that to the other side, and then what we're going to do once we give that a little bit of time to dry and set up, and hopefully stop the leak, is we're going to fire her up, let her come up to temperature. She cycled once already. Remember, we just did that. We're going to let it cycle again, and then we're going to go and tune it. And the way that we're going to do this when we do the tuning is we'll start it up, we'll let it run for a little bit. Once we've got it nice and warm, we're going to go and we're going to check the timing on it. We'll set that up, see, make sure that the timing is at least close, right? Because a lot of your tuning issues is related to timing versus related to fuel delivery. And you can tell they look the same, but they're discretely different. So we'll do that. We'll get the initial timing set. We'll do that the standard way. We'll pull off the ported. We'll cover the ported one. We'll go ahead and set the initial timing. We'll put it on. We'll check and see what our total timing is when it's warm. Once we've done that, we're going to go ahead and pull one of the, I think I have one already pulled. Yeah, I got a small one over here. That little small one right in there we'll pull off. We'll have the vacuum line already set up on it. And then we'll set the idle mixture screws. And the idle mixture screws are just setting what your fuel ratio is right on your idle circuit. It's not really there to set what your idle, that's what your curb setting is for, right? So it's set at about 950 right now. We're going to leave it there initially. We'll do one side, maximize vacuum, and so where it's not fluctuating. We'll do the other side, maximize vacuum for it is, and then we'll go back. We'll check to see what our idle is. If it needs to be adjusted, we'll adjust it again. If we do that, then we need to go back and readjust the idle mixture screws for it. And you just keep iterating that around and around and around until everything's leveled out and you don't have to do any more changes with that. And then you've got your idle mixture screw set. You would typically, before that, if you've screwed with the carburetor or it's one that you don't know of, this one's fresh out of the box from Holley. So I know that everything is set primarily where it needs to be. You'll want to go in and set your throttle blades such that you don't uncover more than like a quarter to a third of the transfer slots, right? Because the transfer slots are there to give you, when you're coming off of idle over into the mid-range where it's pulling out of the Venturis and stuff, those slots are there to give you that mid-range crossover. And if you have too much of the blade, too much of the slots already exposed, you're doing that in idle, and adjusting the idle mixture screws won't do anything for you because it's always going to be rich and you won't be able to maximize it. So you'd want to do that as a first step. But I know that this is set because nobody screwed with it. It came set out of the factory. So I know it is. But generally, you check that. you set your idle mixture screws. And if those have been screwed with a lot, turn them all the way in, pull them out 1 1/4 to 1 1/2 turns, and then do your adjustments from there, right? So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to get that cover on the other side done because I got to take the alternator off on that. We'll get that one all done. We'll let it dry for a little bit, and we'll fire it up, come up to temperature, and we'll start that. And I'll show you what I'm doing when we get to that. And then once that's done, it's set. I get my power steering pump. I get it so that we can drive this sucker around, and we're ready to rock and roll. Well, I should probably put up and bleed brakes too, so we'll probably do that at some point here before we get, if we don't get our pump here soon, which is, I know it's on the way, I've been tracking it, we'll go ahead and get the brakes bled so that we have some foot pedal on that thing. So, all right, we'll be back in just a little bit when we're moving to the next step. All right, see you in a bit. All right, so we threw the back tire back on because that sucker wasn't bleeding. As we showed you, the master cylinder was, bubbling stuff up out of the top of it while we were doing it. And so we decided to come down and see if we could bleed the front here. And what we found out is this broke pretty well. It didn't break off, it broke free, so we could open it up. But what we had, what we experienced in the back, we're experiencing in the front too. I'd go to pump it up. We're using my single man thing, and it wasn't pumping or doing anything. You'd pump it, and it would pump up through the master cylinder. So I'm pretty sure the master cylinder's bad, or we have blockage in the lines. Either one. Anyway, we've ordered a new master cylinder and new rubber lines for this. I know that these cylinders are working because if let me set you up on the, take off the bottom piece here. I'm going to set you up on a little tripod and show you something. It's a little project service announcement, I guess. That way that you can test to see if your calipers are working okay for you. And the way that you can do that is, I had this compressor hose here that I was using to blow stuff off and clean it up. And since I had that out, make sure that you're seeing that. Okay, get you over here like that. I can blow in the bleeder valve and put some pressure on the cylinders and see if the cylinder squeezed the wheel. And we were doing that. So when you're under there and you're braking, if you hit like something like that, you can go ahead, you can check it out. Let's just crack this bleeder valve, make sure it's nice and open. Okay, like that. And we can turn this, it's turning just fine. Turn it with one hand even. And now let's go ahead and take compressor hose. Go ahead and put a little pressure on that. Okay, I can't turn it. Okay, so it's making the calipers expand. See, turning there. Let's go ahead and it stops it right like that. So you can go ahead and you can pressurize. You can see if your calipers are stuck or not. And in this case, the calipers are most definitely not stuck. They're working just dandy sandy with that. So once the parts come in, and I got them from Rock Auto, they've already shipped. They should be here. Let's see, today's the 24th or so. It's a Friday, so they'll be in I think tomorrow or Sunday. We'll go ahead and we'll swap out the master because I'm pretty sure that's what the problem is. Could be the rubber hoses because they swell inside, and we'll switch those and we'll see if we can get these suckers to bleed front and back. And when we do that, we may just pop the calipers off, clean everything up. It's got plenty of pad, as you can see, on the front and the back, so they're just rusty and crusty. So, and of course here we're a little rusted, but that'll shine them right up once you get rolling on it, and that's what we're trying to do here. We will pop these caps. We'll check the bearings to make sure that they're well greased. And here, we could probably do that on the rear when we do that too, because of the way that's set up. They have bearings very similar to these spindles because they got the mini shafts that drive it. So that's where we're currently at, and we'll update you again when we're there. We're still waiting on that stupid power steering pump.
which was back ordered. It should be shipping today, but we'll go check it and we'll see if it's going to do that, and we'll update you on it. All right, so stay tuned. We'll be right back. Okay, so as we were telling you, we're working on the brakes, right? We're trying to troubleshoot these, and the ones, well, I'm up front now, so let's do those first before I do a squirrel. And we broke the bleeders free, right? And we're trying to see if it'll come out. Now, I'm not sure the master was working, so we got a new master. That one's on. It's filled up. We pumped it again. We're still not getting anything out. So what I decided to do was get underneath here and take a look at the proportioning valve to make sure that we had fluid coming out. And I did. I cracked this line. I cracked this line. I cracked this line. I've got brake fluid that's dripping out of that. So we got fluid coming out of the master going to the proportioning valve right here. And it's heading towards the back and it's heading towards the front. So... and obviously there's no brakes in the line, or it would have just pumped free, right? But it didn't do that. So what I'm suspecting here is it's the plastic lines that they're swollen up and they're not allowing liquid to go in or come back. So what we're gonna do is I'm gonna put this back down, and we're gonna go ahead and pull the, where are we? Pull the rubber lines off, put the new rubber lines, because I got them all, they came in with the master. We'll put all new rubber lines on and we'll see if we can make it bleed. If we cracked, we'll crack it from here first, off of the wheel part first, because it'll be easier to do that. Those have a tendency to break up. We'll probably want to heat them, but we'll hit it here on this big side. I've been soaking it with some blaster, so hopefully it'll crack free. If it does, we'll see if there's any fluid dripping out of that, because then maybe what it's pointing to is these. But if you're in the last segment here, we energize this with air, and it, it's moving in and out. We know that. So we know that the cylinders aren't locked up, at least one set on the back anyways. But we'll go ahead and we'll continue to troubleshoot that. Just a quick update on that, so we can see if we can get this thing to stop when we get this thing to move here. And we'll go from there. So let's pop that off and see what happens. We'll be right back. Okay, we're back up in the air, tireless car. As you can see on the floor, there's an old rubber brake cable. They're on here. Let's turn the light on so you guys can see as usual. They're all on. There's the front ones. A little bit of leaking going on there. I have to check, make sure that's still tight. I think that was from overrun when I was doing it, because as I was pulling these off, there's that one on that side, they all were leaking out of the fittings, because we were getting liquid all the way over to all the fittings, and they were just not getting through the rubber hoses like we thought. You see the mess I have on the floor here. That's because, again, because right there, leaking. And you got the rubber hose right there. Some of it's dripping down from doing the leaking there. Hi there. And had to use a torch on this one. This is my gas tank, so I had to make sure the torch flame, this is my gas tank, and make sure the torch flame was pointing at that. So just be cautious when you guys are doing this, to make sure. And I'll go and I'll retighten everything. Again, that one too. There's that other back one right there. Made a mess. And there's that cable right up there on. So now we got all the rubber cables to it. We've just got to, there's that one there. They all came off. They took a little heat on most cases to get them off, but they're all off. They're all in fairly decent shape. And so I got to work on these and get these bleeders to break free. But that passenger side wheel, the in the back, the front drivers, and this front one. Have I broken this one free yet? I don't think so. No, this one's still got to be broken free here, but we've got at least two of them on that side all broken free, and we'll just make sure everything's tight and ready to go. Hit everything with a little brake cleaner to make sure it's good and clean and it doesn't decay anything. And I get brake cleaner. I use the CRC brake clean, and I actually buy it by the case. When I get down to half a case, I go ahead
and I order up a new one. But that's where we're at. Wheels are off, those are all replaced. We've got fluid at least to the rubber hoses. We'll go ahead and we'll crack these and see if we can't get some bleeding going on through the bleeders and into the calipers, and then we'll update you, because you've probably seen brake jobs 100 times. So no big deal with that. We'll be back shortly. Hang tight. Okay, so got this bleeder brake free. We've got the two bleeders over here. Well, the one bleeder on the front that broke free. We've got the two bleeders in the back that broke free, the front and the back. And we got this front bleeder to break free. And then we had a whole crap moment, because as you look down here, you'll notice there's no bleeder sticking out. The reason there's no bleeder sticking out is we had a whole crap moment, and there's the top of the bleeder. It broke off on us. Now, it's down all the way tight, so it's not going to leak. This is a double bleeding system, and there's a tube that transports to get fluid over the here. So when we bleed this one, we'll open this up and we'll just have to pump the living crap out of it and hopefully get everything out, so we don't have to worry too much about that bleeder right now. And then when we go to do the, when we do suspension upgrades, we'll just put a new caliper on it, because it'll be due about then, or we'll get an easy out and try and turn that sucker out if we have a problem. But right now we're just not going to worry about it. It is broke off closed, so that's where we're at. So we've got to go ahead and bleed these brakes, and we'll see where we get with that, and then we'll be back to you guys.